Matthew Hopkins was England's first professional witchfinder. He even gave himself the title of Witchfinder General. He had been a solicitor in Manningtree until he discovered that he could earn more and easier money by persecuting the illiterate, crippled and deformed. These were his main targets, especially if they were women. Hopkins became famous for his knack of detecting witches, for whom he received a payment of 20 shillings each, a large amount in those days, and this enabled him to engage others to assist with his work. He even boasted that through his efforts 29 witches had been condemned to death at one court sitting. The greatest number of trials in this country took place in Essex and Suffolk. As Hopkins came from Manningtree, it's not surprising that he should start his witch hunt there. In fact, his first 3 victims were his neighbours, and 7 or 8 other locals soon followed suit. These alleged Manningtree witches, he said, held meetings every Friday to make sacrifices to the devil, and according to him, dogs vanished at their behest. Also that they controlled imps or familiars with such unlikely names as Jamara, Vinegar Tom and Greedygut. Having arrested his victims, he used various methods of torture to extract confessions from them, such as tying them cross-legged with their left thumb tied to their right big toe and right thumb tied to their left big toe, and then placing them upon a table and leaving them without food or water for 2 or 3 days. When they were untied, they were forced on a brisk march, so it's not surprising that they would then confess to almost anything. With this confession, when they came before the courts, their fate was already sealed. Several other methods were used to extract confessions from the victims, such as stripping them under the pretense of searching for devil marks, which could have been anything from a wart, a mole, a birthmark, a scar or pockmark. If, however, they still refused to confess under his torture, they were then swum, which meant that they were bound hand and foot, then tossed into the river. If they floated, it was put down to witchcraft, and they were hauled out to be hanged or burnt at the stake. If they sunk, it meant that they were innocent, but as they usually drowned before they could be brought out, it was certainly rough justice. Matthew Hopkins' first victim was his neighbour Elizabeth Clark, who he said, together with her friends, had at one time sent a devil disguised as a bear to kill him in his garden. After she had been subjected to the Hopkins treatment, he said that while she was in captivity she had been visited by her imps. These had been in the form of a kitten, 2 dogs, a rabbit, a toad and a polecat. She also admitted that she had been to bed with the devil, who was a gentleman with laced bound. She also admitted that one of her imps was a fat little dog with short legs and spots, which was able to vanish into thin air on her command. Nobody knows just how many victims Hopkins claimed in all, but it was well over 200, and at one time he had 32 of his neighbours in jail and 19 of them were hanged in one day. Matthew Hopkins' reign as Witchfinder General was from 1644 to 1646. Matthew died at his home on the 12th of August 1647. Along the riverside road known as the Walls at Mistleys, there is a small humpback bridge known locally as the Hopping Bridge. This bridge was designed and built by the famous architect and landscape designer Robert Adam. There have been many reports of various apparitions having been seen in the vicinity of this small bridge. Many people have claimed to see the figure of what they believe to have been a young girl in her early 20s, dressed in what appears to be a long, flowing white dress, not unlike a bridal dress, walking across the mud from the river when it has been at low tide. She climbs the riverbank and glides across the road just beside the bridge, then disappears into the grounds of Mistleys Place. One dark winter's night at 10 o'clock, a 19-year-old man was cycling home along the walls. As he approached the Hopkins Bridge, about 25 to 30 yards ahead of him, in the light of the street lamp, he saw the figure of what he thought was an elderly man wearing a long coat and a large flat cap, crossing the road right in front of an oncoming car. The driver braked sharply, but could not stop in time before running into the figure. Both the cyclist and driver were badly shaken, fearing that a man had been killed or at least badly injured, but when he looked under the car, there was no sign of a body. Another more macabre apparition that has been seen in the vicinity of the bridge is a horse-drawn hearse, driven by a headless driver and pulled by 4 headless horses. It travels silently along the walls until it nearly reaches Mistleys Towers, when it suddenly disappears. Within a few yards of Hopkins Bridge, the apparition of the infamous Matthew Hopkins, the self-styled Witchfinder General, is said to appear by the lake in the grounds of Mistleys Place. In fact, as recently as 1993, what is believed to have been his ghost was reported to have been seen at least 10 times.